There were once a king and queen, rulers of an unnamed city, who had three daughters of conspicuous beauty. The youngest and the most beautiful was Psyche, whose admirers, neglecting the proper worship of the love goddess Venus, instead prayed and made offerings to her. It was rumored that she was the second coming of Venus, or the daughter of Venus from an unseemly union between the goddess and a mortal. Venus is offended and commissions Cupid to work her revenge. Cupid is sent to shoot Psyche with an arrow so that she may fall in love with something hideous. He instead scratches himself with his own dart, which makes any living thing fall in love with the first thing it sees. Consequently, he falls deeply in love with Psyche and disobeys his mother's order. Although her two humanly beautiful sisters have married, the idolized Psyche has yet to find love. Her father suspects that they have incurred the wrath of the gods and consults the oracle of Apollo. The response is unsettling. The king is so accept no human son in law but rather a dragon like creature who harasses the world with fire and iron and is feared by even Jupiter and the inhabitants of the underworld. Psyche is arrayed in infernal attire, conveyed by a procession to the peak of a rocky crag, and exposed. Marriage and death are merged into a single rite of passage, a transition to the unknown. Zephyr, the west wind, bears her up to meet her fated match and deposits her in a lovely meadow where she promptly falls asleep. The transported girl awakes to find herself at the edge of a cultivated grove. Exploring, she finds a marvelous house with golden columns, a carved ceiling of citrus wood and ivory, silver walls embossed with wild and domesticated animals, and jeweled mosaic floors. A disembodied voice tells her to make herself comfortable, and she is entertained at a feast that serves itself and by singing to an invisible lyre. Although fearful and without the proper experience, she allows herself to be guided to a bedroom, where in the darkness a being she cannot see has sexual act with her. She gradually learns to look forward to his visits, though he always departs before the sunrise and forbids her to look upon him. Soon she becomes pregnant. Psyche's family longs for news of her, and after much cajoling, Cupid, still unknown to his bride, permits Zephyr to carry her sisters up for a visit. When they see the splendor in which Psyche lives, they become envious and undermine her happiness by prodding her to uncover her husband's true identity. Since, surely as foretold by the oracle, she was lying with the wild winged serpent who could devour her and her child. One night, after Cupid falls asleep, Psyche carries out the plan her sisters devised. She brings out a dagger and a lamp she had hidden in her room in order to see and kill the monster. But when the light instead reveals the most beautiful creature she has ever seen, she is so startled that she wounds herself on one of the arrows and Cupid casts a sight cure. Struck with the feverish passion, she spills hot oil from the lamp and wakes him up. He flees, and though she tries to pursue, he flies away and leaves her on the bank of a river. There she is discovered by the wilderness god Pan, who recognizes the signs of passion upon her. She acknowledges his divinity, then begins to wander the earth looking for her lost love. Psyche visits first one sister, then the other. Both are seized with renewed envy upon learning the identity of Psyche's secret husband. Each sister attempts to offer herself as replacement by climbing the rocky crag and casting herself upon Zephyr for convenience, but instead is allowed to fall to a brutal death. In the course of her wanderings, Psyche comes upon a temple of Demeter and inside finds a disorder of grain offerings, garlands, and agricultural implements. Recognizing that the proper cultivation of the gods should not be neglected, she puts everything in good order, promoting a theophany of Demeter herself. Although Psyche prays for her aid and Demeter acknowledges that she deserves it, the goddess is prohibited from helping her against a fellow goddess. A similar incident occurs at a temple of Hera. Psyche realizes that she must serve Venus herself. Venus reveals in having the girl under her power and turns Psyche over to her two handmaids, worry, and sadness, to be whipped and tortured. Venus tears her clothes and bashes her head into the ground and mocks her for convincing a child in a sham marriage. The goddess then throws before her a great mass of mixed wheat, barley, poppy seed, chickpeas, lentils, and beans, demanding that she sort them into separate heaps by dawn. But when Venus withdraws to attend a wedding feast, a kind aunt takes pity on Psyche and assembles a fleet of insects to accomplish the task. Venus is furious when she returns drunk from the feast and only tosses Psyche a crust of bread. At this point in the story, it is revealed that Cupid is also in the house of Venus, languishing from his injury. At dawn, Venus sets a second task for Psyche. She is to cross river and fetch golden wool from violet sheep who gaze on the other side. These sheep are elsewhere identified as belonging to the Helios. Psyche's only intention is to drown herself on the way, but instead she is saved by instructions from a divinely inspired reed of the type used to make musical instruments and gathers the wool caught on briars. For Psyche's third task, she is given a crystal vessel in which she has to collect the black water and swept by the source of rivers Styx and Cocytus. Climbing the cliff from which it issues, she is daunted by the foreboding air of the place and dragons slithering through the rocks and falls into despair. Zeus himself takes pity on her and sends his eagle to battle the dragons and retrieve the water for her. The last trial Venus imposes on Psyche is a quest to the underworld itself. She is to take a box and contain it in a dose of the beauty of Proserpina, queen of the underworld. Venus claims her own beauty as faded through standing her alien son, and she needs his remedy in order to attend the theater of the gods. Once again, despairing for her task, Psyche climbs a tower, planning to throw herself off. The tower, however, suddenly breaks into speech and advises her to travel to Lacedaemon, Greece, and to seek out the place called Taenarus, where she will find the entrance to the underworld. The tower offers instructions for navigating the underworld. The speaking tower warns her to maintain silence as she passes by several ominous figures: a lame man driving a mule loaded with sticks, a dead man swimming in the river that separates the world of the living from the world of the dead, an old woman weaving. These, the tower warns, will seek to divert her by pleading for her help. She must ignore them. The cakes are trees for distracting Cerberus, the three-headed watchdog of Orcus, and the 2 coins for Charon the ferryman. Everything comes to pass according to plan, and Proserpina grants Psyche's humble entreaty. As soon as she re-enters the light of the day, however, Psyche is overcome by bold curiosity and can't resist opening the box in the hope of enhancing her own beauty. She finds nothing inside but an ephemeral and Stygian sleep, which sends her into a deep and unmoving torpor. Meanwhile, Cupid's wand has healed into a scar and he escapes his mother's house by flying out of a window. When he finds Psyche, he draws the sleep from her face and replaces it in the box, then pricks her with an arrow that does no harm. He lifts her into the air and takes her to present the box to Venus. He then takes his case to Zeus, who gives his consent in return for Cupid's future help whenever a choice maiden catches his eyes. Zeus has Hermes convince an assembly of the gods in the theater of heaven, where he makes a public statement of approval, wants Venus to back off, and gives Psyche ambrosia, the drink of immortality, so the couple can be united in marriages as equals. The union, he says, will redeem Cupid from his history of provoking adultery and sordid liaisons. Zeus' words is solemnized with a wedding banquet. With its happy marriage and resolution of conflicts, the tale ends in the manner of classic comedy or Greek romances such as Daphnis and Chloe. The child born to the couple will be voluptas, means pleasure.